My name is Michaela Self, and I'm going to be presenting my DEI poster on the Lincoln County Public Library System. I chose this public library system because I live in Lincoln County currently, and I could potentially work in the Lincoln County Public Library System or the Lincoln County Public School System as a librarian. So I wanted to do more background research on the community around me. My family is from this community, so it would give me a lot of insight there as well. Throughout my research, I did find that the Lincoln County Public Library System wasn't a system that promoted a lot of diversity, equity, or inclusive practices. So I used my poster as a way as a form of a call to action to patrons, to kind of push them to call for reform in the local public library system, to maintain accountability for programs across the board. I looked into the possible equity, diversity, and inclusive aspects of the Lincoln County Public Library System. I looked at their website, their catalog, diversity of staff in their events, into their social media, and I listed some improvements that I suggested down there at the bottom. My ultimate finding was that this public library system was not diverse or equitable in their practices. They did have, in regards to their website accessibility, they were a little more inclusive, but ultimately there were a lot of changes that needed to be made. So a little bit about this public library system, is that there are about 95,000 people that live in Lincoln County. And of that population, 90% are considered to be white. 6% in the last census were African American. And then the last 4% were people who were of Native American descent. They were of Asian culture or Pacific Islander. So that, in and of itself, the local population was not very diverse to begin with. So that can explain the lack of diversity within the library system, just because that is the population that they're pulling from, in regards to staff and patrons. So there's not that much of a diverse population that are accessing these resources, but that doesn't mean there isn't diversity that needs to be addressed. Whether or not I think they're serving their full community, I don't, just because there was a very big lack of diversity throughout each system I looked at. Just because the population is primarily white does not mean that the system does not need to have diverse staff, doesn't mean they don't have to have inclusive resources, and equity across the board. So I did learn a lot about my community throughout this research, that in regards to the population being primarily white, but that there is still reform that needs to be had across the board.